Among the 7 divisions in Ramayana, 6 are appropriately titled. But the title Sundara Kanda seems a misnomer. The division of beauty is the literal meaning of this heading, whereas ugliness alone is apparent everywhere. Sita's being imprisoned and watched over by hideous creatures, her dragging on a wretched life, Ravana scheming to win her over to his wicked ways, these diabolical things do not savour of beauty but of blemish alone. Beauty is admired and awkwardness is avoided. Let us see if there is any display of beauty at all in this ugly background that Lanka presents. As Anjaneya was darting southward through the space up above the sea, the celestials hailed his heroic action. But he had no time to pay heed to them. A mountain shot up from the middle of the sea and presented itself before the hastening hero. Mistaking it for an intruder, Maruti gave it a push with his chest. While whirling down like a cloud, the mountain Mainaka announced that it was friend, not foe. Directed by the sea god, it came from the bottom to provide Hanuman a wayside resting place and refreshment. But the hastening Hanuman said politely that Rama's commission could not be delayed. Now the celestials wanted to test the resourcefulness of Anjaneya. So they requested Surasa, the mother of the serpents, to assume the form of a huge demoness and obstruct his progress. She acted accordingly and insisted on Anjaneya's entering her mouth before proceeding further. Consequently, there was a competition between the two in expanding the enormousness of their respective bodies. At an advanced stage, Anjaneya suddenly became a tiny creature, flew into the monster's mouth and came out unhurt. Surasa resumed her normal form and blessed Anjaneya to be successful in his mission. The trouble was not yet over. Hanuman felt that some unknown force was arresting his flight. On scrutiny, he found that the demoness had sway over him by chasing his shadow. She was out to appease her prolonged hunger. When she opened the cave-like mouth, the supposed prey assumed a tiny form, entered her belly, destroyed her bowels, and emerged piercing the body. She fell dead into the sea. Hanuman landed unnoticed on the peak of the hill called Lanka, fertile with vegetation. Because of his fortitude, discernment, intelligence, and prowess, he could alight unimpeded in the inaccessible Lanka. An act of this kind has a beauty of its own. Hanuman thought for a while of a strategy he was to adopt to make his campaign successful. He was to move unknown and unnoticed, and he was to contact Sita in secret. Otherwise, the plan would be thoroughly quashed. So he diminished his size to that of a cat and moved out long after sunset. Still, he could not escape the vigilance of Lanka Devi, the arch-guardian of the capital. She interrogated,
"Who are you, and what brought you here?"
"I just came to see this place. After seeing it, I shall go away,"
said Hanuman. Lanka Devi gave a resounding slap on the cheek of Hanuman. He in return closed his fist and gave a violent blow to the guardian woman. She fell flat on the ground and rose up with a statement.
"I was appointed by Brahma to guard this empire. He told that if I was knocked down by a monkey, my function ended there and the fall of the empire commenced."
So saying, she vanished. As a precursor of fall, this allegorical incident happens in one form or another to every mighty empire that transgresses right living. Assuming an unnoticeably tiny form, Anjaneya made a diligent search of every nook and corner of the capital at night when the city was partly in slumber. The stupendousness of the buildings and the enormity of wealth bore testimony to the prosperity of the empire. The city planning indicated the engineering feat and the hygienic consciousness of the people. The parks and gardens revealed their aesthetic taste. Here and there the chanting of Vedas could be heard. The classical music produced elsewhere marked their refinement. The physical structure of the people was strong and elegant. Still, these people were classified Rakshasas or demons because of their voluptuary and cruelty. There were also ugly creatures among them as anywhere else. On the whole, this stock was superior to that at Kishkinda, both in the build of the body and in attainments. But in conduct, Kishkinda was superior. The abnormality in drink and the overindulgence in sensuality presaged the impending fall of the people. Maruti gained access into the sleeping chamber of Ravana and had a close observation of that demon hero in deep repose. Unwillingly, he had to enter the woman's apartment, hoping to find Sita in their midst. At first sight, He mistook Mandodari, the first queen of Ravana, for Sita. Then he corrected himself because it was impossible for the chaste and austere spouse of Rama to reconcile herself with that indulgent environment and with that vile abductor. The diligent search for Sita was practically over. All possible places where women stayed or were likely to be kept hidden were probed into, but no trace of her could be found anywhere. The super attempt of Anjaneya was so far a failure. If he returned defeated in purpose, the consequences would be grave, if not tragic. The hero shuddered even to think of them.
Could it be possible that the adamant Sita was eaten up by the demons out of vengeance? Or did she drop down into the sea and perish while being airborne by Ravana? Sampati said he had a yogic television of Sita guarded by ugly demons. Was this television an illusion?
Thought Anjaneya. Anyway, Anjaneya resolved to go on searching to the end of his life. Now Asokavana, or the Garden of Delight, was the one important place that remained unexplored. Maruti scaled the compound and got into it with ease. As the name indicated, the garden was really the dispeller of distress. While the palace was the artificial seat of sense pleasure, this garden was the natural inspirer of pleasure sensual to the sensuous and spiritual to the austere. The beauty and the bounty of nature were both concentrated here. The treasures of earth were lavishly spent to decorate this naturally charming place. The flowering and the fruiting trees of all the seasons were intelligently cultured here. It was the haven of joy to birds, bees, and beasts. If Sita was alive, she was bound to restore to this place either to delight or to decline in sorrow because of her partiality for woods. So thought Hanuman and searched for a place of personal concealment on the branch of a tall tree. No sooner he secured such a foliage than he saw an arresting scene below. On a platform was seated a slim woman plunged in sorrow. Strangely enough, that sorrow was not earthy. It was an ethereal languor, adding luster to her natural beauty. It was given to the spiritual genius of Maruti to see into this divine halo. He further scrutinized. The jewels described by Rama were hanging fastened to the branch. The yellow cloth worn by her was dirty because of no change. A single plate hanging up to the waist had received no wash. The body was haggard due to fast and sleeplessness. In spite of these odds, it was a young woman of heavenly beauty that was seated there, absorbed in the painful thought of Rama.
Indeed, this is Sita,
was the thought that flashed in the mind of Maruti. Mentally, he paid his homage to Rama, the worthy spouse of this spiritual beauty. It was a bright morning. In his diminutive form, Anjaneya could remain hidden within the leaves on the top of the tree and observe the happenings below, himself being unobserved. Conscience remains hidden in the innermost recesses of the heart and witnesses the doings of man, good and bad. Presently, Ravana made his appearance accompanied by a bevy of wives, paying homage to him in several customary ways. At the approach of this, pageantry Sita's mind got more absorbed in the faraway Rama. The hidden Hanuman could closely scan the classic physique of Ravana. He was all admiration for it, enemy though the owner of it was. Now Ravana affectionately addressed Sita and said,
"Oh darling, do not be cross with me. I have won you in the wont of our race. Now there is no escape for you. But I shall not embrace you without your consent. The Creator has come out with the best of his talents in giving you beauty, and you have conquered me, the one who has conquered the three worlds. Please be not adamant. Become my own, even as these celestial beauties have become. Think not of the fugitive Rama, who may or may not be alive. Even if he be alive, he is in no way superior to me. Let not your youthful beauty wither away in meaningless distress. Become the Empress of Lanka."
Sita threw a bit of straw in front and addressed it with calmness, composure, and dignity. "Withdraw your mind from me and fix it on your own consorts. You incurred sin by doting on the chaste wife of another. Because of the wickedness of their king, the people of Lanka are going to suffer. None can separate me from my Lord Rama. If you want to escape from death, practice self-control and resort me reverentially to Rama. You sneaked into the ashrama as a thief and stole me away in the absence of Rama and Lakshmana. In the open war, you are going to be slain by them.
Because of my inordinate love for you, I tolerate this inexcusable statement of yours. Anyhow, I give you 2 months' time. Within that, you must choose to be my wife and share my bed. If you fail, my cooks will cut you to pieces and cook you for my morning meal.
No being in the world except you will speak in this manner to me, who am Rama's chaste wife. It is within my power to burn you to ashes by my chastity, but out of pity I spare you. Rama's arrows, however, will deal with you fittingly for this heinous sin. Ravana now flared up like a wounded lion. His lips quivered and eyes got bloodshot. Still he partially composed himself and gave orders to the hideous demoness that kept watch over Sita to somehow win over that woman with threats and cajolements alternatively. Then he moved away majestically with his attendant wives. The word Ravana and Rudra are derived from the root Rud, which means to cause to cry. There are 2 types of crying, one the worldly and the other godly. Both the forces create the situation for sorrow and then supply the actual need of the distressed. All weeping and wailing connected with the mundane is induced by the Ravana force. Ravana used to carry away many a woman by force, thereby creating pang in her. Then he consoled her by supplying her with all possible earthly pomp, power and pleasure. No soul could resist the sweet temptations profusely offered by him. The concealed Hanuman finds an exception in Sita. Sita was apparently imprisoned and harassed by Ravana, but neither his abduction nor his offer of extraordinary earthly position could have any effect on Sita. She was made of a metal supremely above all mundane concerns. She remained unaffected by all earthly pains and pleasures. She suffered from a self-created pang for reunion with her Lord. It was the separation that brought out this divine element in her. It was the Rudra force that revealed her character in its original purity. The beauty of that character stands on its own pedestal. One after another, the demonesses now presented their views to Sita and persuaded her to come round to right decision. Ravana's high lineage was depicted by one and his exploits extolled by another. His mastery over the 3 worlds was praised by the third. Ravana's control over the wind, sun and rain was no small achievement. He was a terror to the celestials. The grandeur of his palace, the opulence of his wealth, the luxury and the services of hundreds of maidservants that would be at the disposal of the meaninglessly languishing Sita were all temptingly offered to her. She was carried across the unfordable deep sea and confined in an inaccessible park. Escape was impossible. There was none to redeem her. Resigning herself to the lot was the only course open to her. But Sita's stern rejoinder was, "Palace and penury make no difference to me. I have my existence in Rama. Separated from him, I shall not live." This is the truth pertaining to Prakriti. The demonesses now resorted to terrifying Sita. They suggested ways and means of devouring her. With sorrow written large on her face, Sita reviewed her fate. It is wretched to take human birth. It is doubly so to be a captive to a stranger. The worst of all wretchedness is for a woman in captivity to retain life. Let these creatures eat me up, or let me put an end to myself. If Rama was alive and if he had known my whereabouts, he would have somehow sent message to me. Since he has not done so, my lingering further is purposeless. At this juncture, Trijata, a colleague to the demonesses, appeared on the scene and warned them to withhold from their wicked design. According to a dream that she dreamt, there was going to be a change of events. Ravana's fall was imminent. Following it, those who molested Sita would not be spared. So, in their personal interest, they were advised to desist from their demonic action. This advice had its salutary effect. The Rakshasis relaxed their rigid watch over Sita and slept sound. Sita was too preoccupied with her emotional thoughts to take note of what transpired between Trijata and the other Rakshasis. She thought, "Man or woman dies when the span of life is over. But it is possible for one to inflict death on another at any time independent of the natural course. Why should not one commit suicide if it serves a great purpose? Instead of allowing myself to be cut to pieces by the Rakshasas, I shall fix my mind on Rama and cast off the body. Then let them feast on it to their heart's content." I am captive. I have neither weapon nor poison to put an end to myself. So I shall make a slip knot of my long braid round my neck, tie the end of the braid to a branch of this tree high up, and jump down from there. The weight of the body will tighten the slip knot, and it will be the end that I want. It was midnight. The demonesses were dead asleep. The preparations were going on. The last thought that was vividly rising in the mind of Maithili was, if Rama ever hears of this mishap, he will not be happy. But I have no other choice. Barring this event, let his hermitage terminate auspiciously. Let him return to Ayodhya, hale and hearty, and give delight to all concerned. Hanuman was the eyewitness to all these significant events that were taking place on the spot in the Asoka grove. He could also intuit the thoughts emanating in the mind of Janaki. He cogitated. So far, my attempts have all been successful. But now I am in a dilemma. If I delay a few minutes, Maithili will be lost once for all. If I shout, the sleeping Rakshashis will wake up and catch me. If I make my appearance in silence, Sita will get frightened, complicating or hastening the crisis. If I speak gently and politely, I may be mistaken for Ravana. There is only one course left open to me.
Sriram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Sriram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Sriram Jai Ram Jai Jai.
The resourceful Anjaneya chanted the glory and valor of Rama in a subdued but clear voice. This was just at the time when Janaki was to commit suicide. She desisted from her desperate action. Her ears were involuntarily intent on the vocal feast. It balmed her pained soul. Could such a thing happen in Lanka, the seat of Ravana? It was no hoax, because pretensions never slake spiritual thirst. Vaidehi felt a new lease of life infused into her. Still she interrogated. Is this not a new trick of the demons to entrap me? Hanuman said,
I assure you, O adorable one, I am a messenger from your Lord.
how am I to know it?
If you permit, I shall appear before you and prove it to you.
Presently he landed from the tree, prostrated, and stood reverentially. Sita found him perfect and sturdy in body, clear in mind, and ardent in Rama's commission. Asked by her, he recounted the developments of the events since she was lost. He concluded,
Rama and Lakshmana are grieved over your loss. They are determined to redeem you wherever found. I am a minister of Sugriva, the king of Kishkinda. This king has dedicated himself, his kingdom, and his people to serve Rama in his attempt to save you. His monkey subjects have gone in all directions in search of you. Among them, I am lucky in finding you. Rama asked me to inform you of his welfare. He is anxious about your safety and welfare. Lakshmana sends his reverence to you. Sugriva sends his homage to you. Here is Rama's signet ring to testify to the validity of my message.
Sita received the signet ring, scrutinized it, and pressed it to her closed eyes with joy and devotion. Now she evinced motherly love towards the messenger. Anjaneya assured Janaki that when he reported her whereabouts to Rama, Rama would, with the help of Sugriva's army, invade Lanka, vanquish the wicked despot along with his race, and redeem her. Now a new cause of anxiety rose in the mind of Maithili. 10 months of captivity were over. Ravana would only spare her for just 2 months more. If not emancipated before that time, he would have her put to death. Then Rama's attempts would go in vain. But because of this new development, she had no freedom to take away her own life. The situation had become rather complicated. A ray of hope and a cloud of despondency have come in side by side. Anjaneya offered to solve her problem in no time. He first demonstrated his yogic power of enlarging his body to any size. The next thing to do was to make Sita sit comfortably on a huge log, which he would airlift and place in the presence of Rama at Kishkinda. Sita admired the superhuman prowess of the son of Vayu, the air god. His solution seemed easy and inviting to the ordinary, but the virtuous would not approve of it. Ravana the abductor stole her away. Rama the timid husband stole her back through the agency of a crafty monkey. That would be the everlasting ignominy of Rama. Death is better than infamy. The heroic course for Rama was to declare war, vanquish the villain, and reclaim the victimized spouse. Hanuman silently admired the valiant attitude of Sita even while in agony of imprisonment. There was ethical beauty in it. Maruti begged Vaidehi for a token of his having met her. On the presentation of that token, Rama should feel assured of the meeting. Sita narrated the incident of her having been teased by a crow at Chitrakuta and of Rama's stern action against an asura that came in the form of that crow. He who was so earnest in guarding her then seemed to have become now indifferent to her loss. That was a repeated lamentation presented before the parting Anjaneya. But the messenger consoled her, depicting the poignancy of Rama's sorrow on the other side. Sita had kept her crest jewel concealed in her clothing. She took it out and gave to Maruti, stating that a greater evidence than that was not available to prove to Rama the genuineness of the meeting. He prostrated with devotion and took leave. Sita bade him farewell, reluctant as she was to part. Now Hanuman felt satisfied that the first and foremost purpose of his adventure into Lanka was achieved. He sat alone and cogitated upon 3 more ventures, which were not prejudicial to the main object. The power that be in Lanka should be given a foretaste of the punishment that would be inflicted on them if they transgress their bounds in their dealings with Sita in captivity. Secondly, the strength of the enemy warrior must be tested. It is an important factor for the invader. Last of all, Ravana's frame of mind should be studied, and that is the overall point in the campaign that has been made. Ashokavana was the favorite resort of Ravana, both for the enjoyment of the company of his wives and for planning serious projects. Hanuman decided the line of action and devastated this charming grove as quickly as his father the wind god would have done. Then he pulled down the huge dome of the temple of Lanka and sat majestically on its terrace, expecting arrest and drastic action. The alarmed Rakshashis ran to Ravana and reported the havoc created by a huge monkey which was perhaps in secret contact with Sita. But the demon king gave no serious thought to this incident. He directed his bodyguards to go and hunt the monkey to death. A big battalion rushed out to enjoy the fun of killing a monkey. But strangely, the whole battalion of the bodyguards was done to death by the slighted creature. Then Anjaneya made a big proclamation that he was an envoy of Sugriva and mighty monkeys of his type were going to destroy Lanka very soon. Jambumali, a mighty Rakshasa, was ordered by the king to kill the insolent monkey. A combat ensued between that skilled archer and Anjaneya. It was not long before the archer succumbed. 7 sons of the ministers were then commissioned to vanquish the intruding monster. Backed by a huge army, the 7 sons of the ministers marched in pageantry and provoked the nonchalant Maruti into action. There was an aerial engagement in which all the 7 sons were squeezed to death and dropped down on the earth. Concealing his anxiety, Ravana called 5 of his generals and put it to them.
On many an occasion I have harassed the celestials and the holy people. Out of spite they may have set up this strange creature to tease me. You please see to it that this being is done to death.
The officers took detachment with them, went well equipped and made strategic attack on Anjaneya, seated firmly on the terrace. All the 5 generals were defeated and killed. The army was completely destroyed. Aksha, the young prince, was present when information was brought to Ravana of the utter annihilation of all the 5 generals by the mysterious monkey. But the prince did not give the time to his father to get enraged by the tragedy. Promptly, he offered to hasten and avenge the humiliation and the loss of life and property caused to Lanka. The father felt relieved and approved of the proposed action. The fully equipped Aksha gallantly drove his impressive chariot drawn by 8 spirited horses and gave battle to the intruder. The valiant Maruti responded to the challenge. The magic chariot rose in the air. The son of the wind god also flew up in the air. The air battle that ensued was terrible to behold. The gods stood aghast and witnessed it. Maruti admired the valor and strategic skill of the young prince. But because of the heinous offense of Ravana, his son also had to be dealt with severely. After affording him enough scope to display his war talents, Hanuman landed death blows on his horses, smashing blows on the lovely chariot, and bone-powdering blows on the handsome Rakshasa prince. A mass of blood-soaked splinters, bones, skin and flesh crashed on the earth. The army that accompanied the prince ran in dismay in all directions. The bereavement of the son did not disturb the mind of Ravana so much as the gravity of the situation. It occurred to him now that a crisis was likely to develop, but he kept the concern hidden in the heart. He sent for Indrajit, his first son, and put the case before him.
Things are going from bad to worse. It behoves you to arrest further deterioration. You can wield weapons with ease. You have conquered the gods and the demons. Pleased with your austerity, Brahma the Creator has bestowed several boons upon you. Use of the Brahmastra is the greatest of them. Therefore, none in the three worlds can oppose you. By the practice of tapasya, you have acquired immense strength. Fatigue will never overtake you. In wisdom and strategy, you are superb. It is not prudent to call you to action now, but the emergency demands it. Go and do the needful. Do not underrate the offender. Vanquish him and return victorious.
Meghanatha, Ravana's first son, once vanquished Indra, the king of the gods. He was therefore distinguished as Indrajit, the conqueror of Indra. This Indrajit readily obeyed his father, received his blessings, and drove in a chariot towards the terrace on which Anjaneya was seated, expectant of further engagements. This chariot, drawn by 4 terrible tigers, made a tremendous noise. The twang of the bowstring added to the sound. Taking note of this array, Anjaneya increased in size. Indrajit commenced the conflict by discharging many arrows of mystic powers. Hanuman rose in the air and displayed dexterity in dodging them. There was a volley of shafts darting round him, but he smartly escaped being pierced by them. It seemed as Maruti was sporting with the arrows directed against him. All the deadly weapons discharged against him proved themselves ineffective. And that was the beauty in the makeup of Maruti. The statement that weapons would not cleave him flashed in the mind of Indrajit. So he chanted and sent forth the Brahmastra. It had the desired effect. The monkey Mahavira laid bound and passive. He knew what was done to him. He also knew that according to Brahma's boon to himself, that supernatural weapon would not long have its effect on him. In the meanwhile, he hoped to be produced before Ravana. The ignorant Rakshasas committed a blunder. They tied Maruti fast with strong ropes and thereby made Brahmastra ineffective. Both the victor and the victim knew this, but they kept quiet, each for his own reason. Maruti was beaten up, cheered, and dragged before Ravana, boiling with anger. Hanuman saw the sleeping Ravana first in his bedchamber. He saw the lust-laden Ravana next when he wooed Sita in the Ashoka grove. Then Anjaneya kept himself concealed. His third and face-to-face open observation of the Lord of Lanka was at his pageant at the kingly court, where this accused was dragged for display, derision, and inquiry. Ravana's attractive personality, prowess, pomp, culture, decorum, administrative genius, lordship over able and intelligent ministers over a mighty army, all these were quickly taken note of by the seeming captive.
If this Rakshasa king had not been tainted by lust, he would have excelled Devendra.
This was the observation made by him. Ravana angrily gazed at Hanuman and gave royal orders to the minister Prahasta.
Whence is his being? What is his intention? Why did he frighten the demonesses and destroy the Ashoka Park? What was the purpose in his penetrating into the impregnable Lanka? Why did this wicked fellow resort to murder?
Prahasta interrogated Anjaneya.
Monkey, be not afraid. You are given protection. Has Indra incited you to probe into the city of Ravana? Are you a spy of Kubera or Yama or Varuna come in disguise? Or do you represent Vishnu who hankers for victory over our king? You do not seem a monkey. Tell the truth so that you may be spared.
Hanuman addressed Ravana direct.
I do not represent Indra, Varuna, Kubera or Vishnu. I am not disguised. I am only a monkey. The park was despoiled by me so that I might get a chance to meet the king in person. But the warriors came instead to kill me. In self-defense I struck them. They succumbed to my blows. According to a boon bestowed on me by Brahma, no weapon can cut me. Nothing can bind me. But I allowed myself to be bound by Brahmastra so that I might be brought to your presence. Now I declare to you, I am an envoy of Rama. I have a message to deliver to you. Please lend me a patient hearing. Enjoyment of Dharma is over for you. Suffering for your adharma commences now. In bringing Sita here, you have brought your death. By reverentially restoring her to Rama, you save yourself. But by causing her to lament here, you are inviting untold misery to you and to your people. You have underestimated Rama's prowess. Single-handed, he exterminated your Janasthan. For misappropriating Sugriva's wife with a single arrow, Rama dispatched Bali to the other world. That very Bali was a terror to you.
Now Hanuman cast a piercing look at Ravana's eyes and found him trembling at heart. And that was the probing beauty in his message.
Rama has installed Sugriva, the king of Kishkinda. As a friend, Sugriva asks you to reconcile with Rama. If you fail, he invades Lanka with an army of monkeys of my type. You ignored man and monkey when you besought a boon from Brahma for death proof from the denizens of the three worlds. Now Rama the man and Sugriva the monkey are going to be the cause of your death. I beseech you to mend matters before it becomes too late.
Ravana became terribly enraged at this insolent advice of a monkey. He ordered him to be butchered then and there. But Vibhishana, the sane younger brother of his, interposed. He made it known that no civilized king ever killed an envoy. There was no sanction for it in any law. Ravana contended that the monkey was insolent and wicked. Vibhishana pacified him, saying that messenger might at the worst be disgraced or disfigured. There was no sanction for capital punishment. Further, if this envoy was let to go, he would report the matter to the two princes and induce them to invade. On their besieging Lanka, they should be encountered and defeated. Ravana approved of this procedure. Still, the Rakshasa element in Ravana was too strong to spare Hanuman unhurt. He ordered rags soaked in oil to be tied to the tail of this vainglorious monkey, set on fire, and taken in procession all over the city. The order was carried out. Hearing of this mishap, Sita prayed for the welfare of her Lord's messenger. Hanuman was surprised because the fire did not burn his tail. Putting the envoy to shame was the motto of the Rakshasa regime. But the resourceful victim utilized the incident to study the spots vulnerable to fire. The ridiculing and jeering procession over, Anjaneya grew in stature, knocked the officers in charge to death, and leaped from house to house, setting them all on fire. In no time, the city was ablaze, leading to the loss of untold wealth. The conflagration led to the lamentation of the entire populace. Wrong done to a holy man rebounds on the doer intensified manifold. Anjaneya took a dip in the sea and quenched the fire on his tail, which was intact. Now an anxiety flashed in the mind of Maruti. Anger is the enemy of man. It robs him of discrimination. The great hero actually played with fire. There was indeed a beauty in it, but he feared he overplayed the game. Perhaps Sita also perished in the bonfire. That would be a tragedy irreparable. With a throbbing heart, he hastened to where she was and said,
Glory to Rama.
When he found her fully absorbed in the thought of her Lord. In a brief farewell, she pleaded for the quick arrival of her Redeemer. Hanuman prostrated reverentially, received the blessings of his mother, and moved on. He climbed the Mount Arishta and took a northward leap in the sky. Sighting the yonder Mahindra hill, he shouted for joy. The eagerly awaiting companions heard his voice and spotted him in the south sky. They made sure he was returning victorious. On his landing with a beaming face, there were hilarious shouts and dances. Anjaneya announced that he had contacted Sita, who was all purity and all hankering after reunion with Rama. Then, eagerly sought by the fellow beings, he presented a detailed account of all that took place in his venture. Now, Angada, the crown prince, has his point of view to present. It was good that Maruti could find out Sita and gather all the particulars required for further action. It would be better if all of them flew to Lanka, killed the Rakshasa king, and carried back the sacred spouse of Rama. Merely carrying information about her would not at all be thrilling. Jambavan, the senior-most member in the party, had his say in the matter. He opined that Rama and Sugriva should not be kept long in anxiety. What was achieved by Anjaneya was marvelous and just the thing required. The next line of action was to be decided by those royal personages. This observation was unanimously accepted as the most feasible. The monkeys now flew to Kishkinda. Dadimukha, the uncle of Sugriva, was the officer in charge of Madhuvana, the honey park, a protected grove. He hastened to the king and complained that the monkeys that went south and returned force entered into the honey park, assaulted the guards, ate up the fruits, drank away all the available honey, laid waste the grove, and indulged in merry dance and riotous play. Sugriva made correct inference of this seeming outrageous behavior. He told Lakshmana that Angada, Hanuman and Jambavan had succeeded in finding out Sita, so they were celebrating their achievement in that manner. Presently, the party arrived jumping and dancing. That was the indication of its success in the search for Sita. Hanuman prostrated before Rama and announced,
Lord, I beheld the blazing purity in Sita pining for you while being kept in captivity in Lanka by Ravana.
A spell of joy appeared in the assembly. That excitement over, he recounted his exploits in detail. Remaining concealed in the boughs of the tree under which Sita was kept imprisoned, he could observe the happenings. Ravana quoted her for all that he was worth. Contempt was what he received in return. Then Sita decided to put an end to herself. There was consistency in her decision. That Rama who discharged a mystic missile at Chitrakutam to chase a crow demon that hurt Sita until that crow demon surrendered before Rama had not taken any action against the abductor of Sita. His inference that she was dead was perhaps the cause of his inaction. In that case, her retaining the life under adverse circumstances was undesirable. So she was going to do away with it. If Hanuman's strategy was laid by a minute, the irreparable tragedy would have taken place. Just in time, he sang the glory of Rama and his illustrious ancestors. Sita suspended her fatal plan. Hanuman's message made her correct herself. She received new life. She was prepared to keep on lingering just for a month more. In the meantime, if Rama did not make his appearance in Lanka to mete out punishment to the Rakshasa, all would be over with Sita. This was a critical position that Anjaneya was obliged to relate to Rama. In the course of his narration, Hanuman produced the crest gem of Sita to Rama. Recognizing it, he was visibly moved. Sorrow and joy were alternately evident on his face. Maruti next detailed the method he adopted to gain access to Ravana's presence. The king of Lanka was a marvelous being. He was endowed with many brilliant parts, but inordinate lust was the one evil that marred his entire career. Because of that inexcusable vice, fear was lurking in his heart. Maithili had already gained a moral victory over him. Rama was to complete it by exterminating his physical existence, thereby ridding the world of a menace. Rama was the embodiment of Dharma. His mission in life consisted of the veneration of the holy, the protection of the good, and the destruction of the wicked. In the loss of Sita, his mission was thwarted. If she was killed, it proved Rama's impotency. If she was defiled, it was a disgrace to him. His advent was a failure. On these two issues, he was very much dejected. It seemed as if wickedness had triumphed over virtue. But Anjaneya's adventure verified the truth that Sita was proof against defilement and that Rama's weapon against the wicked was going to be victorious very soon. A married man has his limitations and personal problems. Without help from the others, he cannot undo the limitations and solve the problem. Rama's life bears testimony to this fact. On the other hand, a celibate of sterling character has no personal problem whatsoever. Therefore, he alone is competent to solve the problem of those involved in worldly life. In this respect, Anjaneya stands in sharp relief against the other characters. And he comes of a subhuman stock, indicating thereby that the higher possibilities of life are no privilege of a section, but are the common heritage of all true aspirants. And that the spiritual beauty of the celibate life excels all other beauties is made evident in this division of the epic.